We're just preparing to put the Welsh plugs back in the Suzuki Stockman engine. We've settled on brass or copper, depending on who you're talking to, and we're just going to descale that out to make sure it's clean where the Welsh plugs are going to go into the hole. So I've got a screwdriver that's fairly square on the edges so I can get in there and try and shave that out. I've already given this one a bit of a try. I've already got that one pretty good. This one had a bit of a glue lip on it, but there's only 2 on this side and 3 on the other side. So then what we'll do, we'll finish up with a bit of 400, something like this, a bit of 400 on there, and we'll just run that round in there. And you can sort of tell by the feel. You can feel how rough or smooth it is. And you just want to fold that over. You can see straight away, you can see the metal's gone a bit shinier. So you don't really want it sitting on dirt or rust or whatever. You can see how that brings it up just with that slight rub. I'll move along here and do the little fella. You can see that cleaned up pretty quickly. You don't really want any paint or any junk getting on the way. A bit more. And when you first start off, if there's a bit of scale and rust in there, you want to keep the waterways clean, or just tilt your engine over like I did before when I started. That way when you're in there doing the job, if there's any grit or dirt or anything, it'll fall outside. You don't really want a ton of grit back in the motor. Too much rubbish floating around in the water can chew up the water pump seal in time. So the cleaner all that is, the better. We're just going to put some silicone on the Welsh plugs, on the Welsh plug now. Put the Welsh plug in. I'll put a little bit in here, make it a little bit easy. A little bit on here. Make it slide in a little bit easier. Don't need much. Just a little bit right. These I'm going to belt the end of the extension and use a brass hammer on it. Now we've got to watch out here, we've got to have the socket smaller than what the outside of the Welsh plug is. And we've got to be careful it doesn't tighten up on the socket. The other thing is we're looking to keep it square. So I've got to come over this side now. I've still got to come over this side a bit. I'll try and keep him square. Doing pretty well. Pretty level. Just check it in now, just in past the chamfer, so we'll go a little bit more, and straighten it up a little bit. There we are, just gone past the chamfer. Let's check up the top there, yep. You can see there now we've just gone past the chamfer. And if you're really worried, you can do this trick. Just put a little bit round behind the Welsh plug. Some people laugh at that, but you never know. If you're out in the middle of the desert and you blow a hose and you cook your motor, at least the Welsh plugs stand a chance of staying in, because all sorts of things can happen when motors get red hot. The Welsh plugs can drop out of them, or anything can happen. So that's about the way I do it. We'll have to get a smaller socket to put the little one in. Sometimes the little ones can be harder than the big ones. They're a bit harder to direct to go the right way. Next up we're going to go for the smaller Welsh plug. They can be more difficult sometimes, so we don't really know until we have a go to see how easy or hard it's going to be. So we're going to start off by putting a little bit of silicone around in there. Not much of a chamfer on this one, so it might take a bit to start. It's a 20mm Welsh plug, and we're going to use a 10mm socket, but that can depend on how thick the wall is in the socket. And we'll try and give you a bit of a look at that, how much slack I've got there, so the Welsh plug doesn't collapse in on the socket. And there again, I'm going to use a brass hammer so I don't damage the socket extension. Start off lightly. You can always bell it harder and a bit harder and a bit harder, but if you bell it too hard first up and the Welsh plug goes right inside, well then it's disaster. It's actually harder to belt this one in than the bigger one. You wouldn't think that, would you? But you better stop and have a bit of a look at him. Pretty good on that side. I'm just past the chamfer, and maybe a little bit more on this side if I can get it. Just going to go slightly crooked. So I'm in past the chamfer, so I'll put a bit more silicone around the outside, and you can see there we've just gone past the chamfer. I'll have a bit more silicone on there, a little bit more around the top edge. It looks bad, but when something's going to do the job, you can always wipe it off with a bit of rag. If you don't like the look of it, you can always come back and just go like this, and one foul swoop, you got it looking a bit neater. Yep, so that's the way I fit Welsh plugs, and I've been doing them for a long time now. And you know, some can be easy, some can be hard. You can see even brass can be quite difficult to get started. Stainless steel are worse, but in our town, or city, whatever you want to call it, small city, everywhere we look, we're mainly brass rather than stainless steel or mild steel. Everybody's had brass in stock, so that's what we decided to go with. Thanks for watching.